I had not expected my visit to my mother to stretch beyond a few hours, let alone 2 full days. Her health had been fragile for months, but that morning her condition had worsened so suddenly that I rushed to her side without taking anything but my coat and my phone. Between long conversations with nurses and my mother's drifting in and out of sleep, time blurred. I let my wife and daughter know I might be late returning, but I didn't imagine I'd be gone long enough for anything at home to unravel. The house was strangely still when I finally turned the key and pushed open the front door. Usually, I was met with the hum of the television, the clatter of dishes, or at the very least, the soft echo of footsteps upstairs. But that afternoon, silence pulled through the rooms like something thick and heavy. I called out my wife's name first, out of habit, affection, and the faintest expectation of normalcy. No response. I tried my daughter's name next. Still nothing. I set down my bag and walked further inside. The living room was tidy, untouched. The couch cushions perfectly aligned, the blinds half open, letting in the tired light of a winter evening. Nothing seemed disturbed, but something felt wrong. A strange tension hung in the air, the sort of atmosphere that tells you the room remembers something you don't yet know. I moved toward the kitchen, hoping to see a note left on the counter, some explanation, but my eyes drifted to the basement door. It was closed. That wasn't unusual, but there was something about it, an offness I couldn't explain. A few inches from the handle, I noticed scratch marks on the wood. Thin, uneven, desperate-looking lines, as though someone had dragged their fingernails across the surface again and again. My heartbeat quickened. "Hello," I called, my voice cracking slightly. At first, there was only silence. Then, faintly, so faintly I almost believed I imagined it, a sound rose from below. A muffled thud, then another, then a trembling voice. "Is someone there?" My stomach dropped. It was my wife. I fumbled with the lock, because somehow it was locked, and yanked the door open. Cold, stale air drifted upward. I rushed down the steps, each one groaning under my weight. At the bottom, in the dim light of a single flickering bulb, I saw her. My wife sat on the concrete floor, knees pulled to her chest, hair tangled and face streaked with tears. Her clothes were wrinkled, and she looked exhausted in a way that went far beyond sleeplessness. "Thank God," she whispered when she saw me, and she pushed herself unsteadily to her feet. I ran to her, wrapping my arms around her, feeling just how cold she had become. It was as though she had been left down there for far longer than a few hours. "What happened? Who did this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, but fear sharpened every word. She shook her head weakly. "I don't know. I went downstairs yesterday to look for some old photo albums, and the door slammed shut. I tried to open it, but it was locked from the outside. I thought maybe you or our daughter were home and playing a prank. But when nobody answered, I panicked." Her breathing quickened, and she held onto me as if afraid I might disappear next. "I screamed for hours," she said. "I hit the door until my hands hurt. I tried everything. I thought maybe something had happened to both of you." Shame and worry knotted inside me. She must have been terrified, alone, trapped, not knowing if help would ever come. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, guiding her toward the stairs. "I should have called more often. I should have." "No," she interrupted softly. "You had to be with your mother. I don't understand how this could happen." As we climbed the steps, I couldn't stop thinking about that lock. It didn't slip on its own. It couldn't. Someone had turned it, intentionally. And our daughter, where had she gone? She wasn't answering her phone, and the house showed no sign of her presence. Her shoes were missing from the rack by the door. Her jacket wasn't hanging on its hook. Had she left willingly? Had she known her mother was trapped? When we reached the living room, my wife sank onto the couch, rubbing her arms as though trying to warm herself from the inside out. I brought her water, a blanket, anything I could find that offered a sense of comfort, but I could see the questions circling behind her eyes. The same questions that were now circling mine. "Did you talk to her before you left?" My wife asked quietly. "No," I said. "I thought she was at school." A long silence stretched between us. Then, my wife's voice, barely audible, broke it. She knew I was in the basement. I heard her. Yesterday evening. She was upstairs, walking around. I called her name. I begged her to open the door. Her throat tightened. She walked away. The words hit me harder than I expected, a cold wave of confusion, anger, and disbelief. Our daughter. Why would she do that? What could possibly have driven her to such cruelty? I didn't speak, not because I had no words, but because I feared the ones forming in my mind. All I knew was this: something deeply wrong had taken root in our family while I was gone. And whatever had happened here in my absence was only the beginning of a truth I wasn't sure either of us was ready to uncover. The house, once a place where laughter used to echo through the halls, now felt like a sealed box filled with questions that pressed against my ribs. My wife sat curled under a blanket on the couch, exhausted from her nightmarish hours trapped in the basement. I hovered nearby, unsure whether to sit, pace, or start tearing through the house for answers. Every few minutes, my eyes drifted to the front door, as though our daughter might walk in and explain everything with a shrug and an apology. But explanation felt too small for what she had done. She walked away from me, my wife whispered again, her voice thinning with disbelief. She heard me calling. I didn't respond. I didn't trust my voice. Instead, I went to my daughter's room. The air inside was stale, untouched. The bed was neatly made, the blankets folded sharply, too sharply, like someone had taken great care to erase any sign of their presence. Her desk lamp was still on, glowing over an open notebook filled with scribbles I couldn't immediately decipher. Her school bag was missing. So were her shoes. And her jacket. It looked as if she had left deliberately, not in a panic but with intention. As I stepped back into the hallway, my wife's voice drifted toward me from the living room. You think she's safe? I don't know, I said truthfully. But I'm going to find her. Before I could reach the door, something caught my eye, another detail out of place. The small drawer in the hallway table was left open. Inside lay our daughter's spare house key, the one she rarely used. She must have taken her main key. That meant she left the house by choice, with full awareness of what she was doing. When I returned to the living room, my wife looked up, her expression torn between relief that I was back and dread of what I might have discovered. She planned it, I said quietly. She didn't just walk away. She left. My wife's face crumpled, but not in surprise, in recognition. She's been angry for weeks, she admitted, rubbing her thumb along the blanket edge. I didn't think it was this serious. Angry about what? She hesitated, and in that hesitation, I felt the foundation of our family shifting under my feet. She didn't want you leaving again, she said finally. She thinks you're always choosing your mother over us. That's not fair, I said sharply. I go when she needs help. You know that. I know, she whispered. But she's young. She sees it differently. A bitter silence settled between us. I wanted to defend myself, to explain, to deny any responsibility for the wedge that had grown between my daughter and me. But defending myself wouldn't change what had happened. Our daughter had locked her mother away and walked out of the house without looking back. My wife continued, her voice cracking. We argued the morning you left. She said she was tired of feeling like second place in your life. I told her she was acting childish and that you were doing the right thing. She got upset, slammed her door, but I thought she'd cool off. I didn't think she would do something like this. I sat down slowly, my breath shaking. Did she blame you too? My wife closed her eyes, and her nod was barely perceptible. She said I always defended you. That I never took her side. That I never listened. The words burrowed into me like needles. This wasn't just a moment of impulsive cruelty, it was the eruption of something that had been building quietly, unseen. I tried calling my daughter again. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I sent message after message, each one shorter and sharper than the last. Where are you? We need to talk. This is serious. Come home. I'm not angry. Just come back. But with every unanswered call, my fear grew heavier, pressing into my chest. Hours passed. My wife dozed fitfully on the couch, whispering my daughter's name in her sleep. I sat across from her, feeling the weight of responsibility descend like a stone. Not just responsibility for finding our daughter, but for understanding her, something I realized with painful clarity that I had not fully done. When the clock pushed past midnight, the front door clicked. My wife jerked awake. I was already on my feet. Our daughter stepped inside. Her posture was stiff, her expression defiant but cracked at the edges, as if she had rehearsed her bravado but not her guilt. Her eyes flicked to me, then to her mother, wrapped in blankets, pale and hollow from her ordeal. For a moment, my daughter froze. I watched her face contort into a collision of surprise, remorse, and stubbornness. "You left her there," I said, my voice low but trembling with disbelief. "You knew she was trapped." Her jaw clenched, and she looked away. "She deserved it." The words sliced through the room. My wife let out a broken gasp, pressing a hand to her mouth. I stepped closer, anger and heartbreak warring inside me. Why? What could she possibly have done to deserve something like that? My daughter's eyes filled, not with tears, but with a fury I had never seen in her before. "You both deserve it," she whispered. "You left me alone long before I left her." The implication slammed into me. Her betrayal was not sudden, it was a symptom. A wound left unattended, a voice unheard, a plea ignored. And standing there, facing her trembling defiance, I realized the truth neither of us had dared to acknowledge. Our family had been breaking long before the basement door ever closed.